welcome to the channel. AMS2 has launched one of the biggest updates ever with huge improvements to the sim. If AMS2 had not already improved so much, this update represents another giant leap forward. From a visual perspective, you will notice both rendering and shader improvements, also enhancements in changeable weather and time of day simulations. These ambient changeable environments really do make AMS2 one of the very best looking sims ever. But not only that, there's a huge overhaul and improvements in car physics across the whole catalogue. Not only that, the ever improving tyre thermodynamic properties, along with tyre flat spotting, tyre wear and degradation rates have also been thoroughly revised for both dry and wet tyres. From a single player racing perspective, there has been a balancing of the AI in wet conditions, and this has transformed the racing, but that really just scratches the surface. So what are the most recent beta testers' comments about the new update? I love the new car's incredible performance. You can really push, but the force feedback lets you know when to drive hard. No more unpredictability. The new Lambo drives superbly and looks great too. I love the new tyre sounds for it too. Mosport is such a great track. Tried it on the P1 and Gen 2. Tyre management will be challenging, especially for the Formula cars at this track. First race in the wet with the new spray effects. Wow, this looks amazing. Couldn't actually see anything, which was awesome, and it was edge of the seat exciting. You have to know the track like the back of your hand to drive it in the wet. Sneaking a peek ahead by pulling out of the slipstream and then tucking back in is really good fun. This is a thing that 1.6 has done that no other updates or even sim in my experience has done. It's been difficult, but it's never frustrating. When I make mistakes on my own, it's always because I'm pushing the car too hard, and it's true with just about every car I drive. 1.6 does such an exceptional job of communicating when you're pushing the car beyond its limits. I really love AMS2's version of Sebring. It feels excellent to drive. Thank you, reader. The new effects are perfect. The subtle improvements in detail is superb. I'm really encouraged by the new AI behaviour regarding blue flag type situations. Leaving the pits now, they do not immediately try to get ahead and in the way, but loiter on the outside and let you pass. Some of those on their in-lap, they move off the racing line and don't battle with you. As I've said, this is the biggest AMS2 update, so hold tight. I'm going to run through IMSA updates, tyre thermodynamic overhauls, next development of car physics, graphical enhancement, ambient noise updates, new cars, new car classes, new tracks, bigger grids, updated UI, and a host of other improvements. Remember, please like and subscribe to keep up to date. Reza will roll out some new car and track packs as additional DLCs. However, the physics and graphics enhancement updates will be free to all users. There's also some free content for download as well. I will break down everything in detail about the new packs. But in this update, we get some base game freebies featuring 4 cars. But the following will be chargeable. Check out Steam in your country for the most accurate prices available. First DLC is the Racing USA IMSA Track Pack. This includes 3 tracks. The Endurance Pack 2 will include 1 new LMDH car and 2 LMP2 cars and 2 GT3 Gen 2 cars. There is also a Lamborghini Dream Pack Part 1 with 4 legendary cars. Before we look at these in detail, let's look at some of the featured updates. One thing you'll notice on version 1.6 is AMS2 now has a completely new user interface. This interface doesn't stay static either, because when you go to the top right hand corner and you press a new series, that updates the visuals and colour on the interface to represent the class that you've selected. So If we look at the Ginetta, for example, on the single race, you'll now actually see the session settings, the race settings, opponents and race penalties along the bottom. More importantly, that's going to be really useful for setting up maximum grids with the new grid sizes. Even the select vehicle has a new interface. Along the top you've got options which takes you to your gameplay, visual effects and camera. There's not a huge amount of change here, although I would say it just feels a little bit easier to see and manage the controls. You'll also see in the bottom centre, coming soon in 2025, the new career mode. That could be anything from a single race and championship career mode, or it could relate to an upgraded multiplayer system. The new UI extends further than just the event settings menu. This also extends into the pre-race menu, where you can edit the setup, which also has the new UI look, extending through the advanced settings, which also extends to a new pit strategy. Load and save have also had a slight update as well. Even the car showroom section allows you to spin the car on a carousel, allowing you to see all of the car features in detail. To reflect the IMSA tie-up, some of the car categories have been renamed. GT3 Gen 2 becomes GT3 Gen 2 GTD, while the LMDH class also becomes LMDH GTP. This now reflects the series as they're shown in IMSA. Testing the updated weather system as part of this development, we can verify the accuracy. This picks up from the historic database. So let's set the date to 2016, start time 1600 hours local time. On the 13th of November 2016, Formula 1 started behind a safety car at Brazil. After about 6 laps behind the safety car, the race got underway. The data pulls in incredibly accurately. The amount of water on the circuit, the amount of spray, and the comparison between the two is really close. In this update, we get some base game freebies featuring 4 cars. The Ligier JS P320 is added to the P1 Gen 2 class. This car was unveiled during the 2019 24 Hour of Le Mans. The Ligier JS P320 is one of the 4 new generation classes selected by the ACO with its modern hypercar look, and with its Ligier trademark nose, the JS P320 is instantly recognisable. Since its official launch in 2020, this car has won almost every LMP3 title. In 2023, it won 7 titles worldwide, including the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series. With its lightweight aerodynamic body and overall compact size, I've driven this car on R-Factor 2, and although I'd say this car is more forgiving in Automobilista 2, it is equally as fun to drive. The Audi R8 LMS GT3 will slot into the current GT3 Gen 1 class in AMS2. This racing car was developed based on the 2nd generation of the Audi R8 that dates back to 2015. The self-supported body, known as the Audi Space Frame ASF, was made of aluminium and carbon fibre with a reinforced plastic construction with a load-bearing steel roll cage. The car had a 585 horsepower, 5.2 litre V10 engine. This car has some really great traction and really sticks to the road. We also have one of the older cars, the Audi Quattro. This fits into the German Group A series. The Audi Quattro is a road and rally car and was first shown at the 1980 Geneva Motor Show, with production continuing right the way through to 1991. The Audi Quattro was the first rally car to take advantage of the then recently changed rules to allow the use of four-wheel drive in competition racing. This car then became the benchmark for other manufacturers to chase. Stemming from the 1980s, is much looser than the other Audi content. However, with a bit of skill, it is easy to control with good, precise throttle and brake application. This car is going to be a great asset for anyone that wants to recreate older DTM races or even older multi-class races featuring the Group A class. The Audi R8 GT4 mid-range and two-seater sports car, which uses Audi's trademark permanent all-wheel drive system, introduced on this car in 2006. The car is exclusively designed, developed and manufactured by Audi AG's private subsidiary company, manufacturing high-performance automotive parts, Audi Sports GmbH. This car is actually based on the Lamborghini Gallardo and presently the Huracan platform. The fundamental construction of the R8 is based on the Audi space frame and uses an aluminium monocoque. This car has 580 horsepower and the R8 is a joy to drive. This car definitely doesn't feel too rear happy and is really nice to control. Earlier in the year, AMS2 developers Reza confirmed the agreement with IMSA. As part of that, we get 3 new tracks that make up the Racing USA IMSA Track Pack Part 1. The Canadian Tyre Motorsports Park joins the illustrious list of tracks as AMS2 brings its IMSA partnerships tracks to the sim. This circuit hosts the IMSA series, the Chevrolet Grand Prix. This track is also known as Mosport Park, and it was designed and built in the late 1950s, 50 miles east of Toronto. This 10-turn, 2.459 mile track is a tough road course owing to its abundance of ultra-fast blind corners, many of which feature dramatic elevation changes, as you can see. However, the track's signature turn is Moss Corner, a double apex hairpin named in honour of Sterling Moss, who redesigned the corner after seeing its original planned configuration. Fittingly, Moss won the first race held at Mosports Park in a Lotus 19 in 1961. In 1967, the Canadian Tyre Motorsports Park staged the first true World Championship Canadian Grand Prix Formula 1 event, which was won by Jack Brabham. During the IMSA events, the LMDH cars lap in around a 105, while the GT3 cars lap in a very long 115. The key to the circuit will be to look after the tyres, as these long, fast turns will really heat the tyres up. This is going to be extra specially difficult with the new tyre physics, and any understeer is really going to damage those front tyres. Road Atlanta is known as the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for sponsorship reasons. It is a 2.54 mile or 4.088 kilometre road course located in Georgia, United States. The track is used for a wide variety of events, but is one of the most anticipated circuits since AMS2's agreement with IMSA. The circuit dates back to 1970, but it was in 1998 that featured the first edition of Petit Le Mans endurance race. The race attracted worldwide attention and included entries from the Le Mans winning Porsche factory team. The race would be the first race of the American Le Mans series and included a spectacular incident where the Porsche 911 GT1 backflipped and flew into the side barriers. The circuit is relatively short, but it is in fact very technical and fast. The most challenging part of the circuit is a part we've already driven, with a tricky to learn entry into the first turn and a blind entry into the S's, which then sets up an attack towards the far end of the circuit. After a tricky double right, it's important to get the acceleration out of those turns to get the best top speed towards a fast descent into the left-right as you then head up the hill towards the Dunlop Bridge towards the finish. This track will feature a 48 grid lineup, so we can expect some very exciting but congested racing. Road Atlanta also gets an alternative circuit. Road Atlanta Moto covers a very similar distance but has 2 sections that really slow the cars down. As you come down towards the start and finish straight, normally you'd sweep fast to the right. With a moto circuit, the change of track is denoted by the cones on the side of the road on the right hand side, and there's a much steeper descent into a much tighter right hand bend where you take a right towards the start finish, which is owned by IMSA Holding. It's one of the oldest racetracks in the USA that's been a continuous venue since 1990. And give a confident turn into the first left-hand corner using all the downforce available. Turns 2 through to 5 are much slower left, right, left sequence, and this really tests the mechanical grip. Turn 6 sweeps gradually to the right and offers a chance to accelerate hard. In sector 2, the tight right-hand hairpin of turn 7 demonstrates hard braking to avoid overshooting the corner, but this then opens up onto a flowing 8 and 9, some of the fastest bends of the circuit. Turn 10 poses a 90-degree right, so the braking point and finding the apex are absolutely key to maintain as much speed as possible into the moderate speed left and right turns of 11 and 12. The final challenge of this section is another 90-degree corner in turn 13. Sector 3, the long drag down to turn 14, allow drivers to pick up the speed and take 2 slight left-hand kinks. Intelligent braking and good racing line into a moderately fast turns 15 and 16 is key to keeping lap times down. Carrying momentum here means race cars can maintain maximum high speed potential for the back straight. The fast, long right-hand corner, turn 17, tests the driver and the car over the most bumpy section of the circuit. AMS2 has absolutely nailed this circuit. The harsh, grippy surface, along with the dusty offline section, offers an incredible challenge. Not only that, the high curbs, the uneven, bumpy surface. This circuit is an absolute masterpiece. Sebring doesn't just stop at one circuit, they've got 2 variations. You've got the Sebring School and the Sebring Club Circuit. With this being titled Part 1, we can expect Part 2, and we can only guess which circuits will be included. Looking at the 2024 calendar, we could get 3 new circuits in Part 2, but at this stage this is totally unconfirmed. With the introduction of Le Mans last year, it was clear that we needed more cars on the grid. With this update, we now have up to a 48 car grid, which will further enhance multi-class races. The increase in grids should be seamless for most higher, but for some PCs there may be a performance hit. Larger grid sizes will only be available for users with 12 GB of physical memory. Those with less than 12 GB of memory will be restricted to a 32 car grid. Also, bigger grids to start with will only be available in single player only. Multiplayer will remain at a capped 32 car grid. Also, not all tracks will be able to accommodate 48 cars. All tracks that support 48 car grids are listed in the description to this video. Whether you're using a 32 car grid or a 48 car grid, you can improve the performance of the sim by going into settings, go down to the limited visible car features and turn the maximum visible cars down. This will automatically calculate the number of cars you see ahead and in the rear view mirror. Reducing the car grid sizes will improve the PC's performance. Also in the update is the new hybrid launch simulation on all the LMDH cars. Now when you pull out of the garage, the classic telltale sound of the electric hybrid system working as the car drives down the pits start to accelerate a bit faster, that automatically kicks in the ICE. And just like that, you've got the perfect sound of the LMDH cars as you pull out of the pits onto the racetrack. There's a substantial upgrade with the Corvette Z06, receiving its Z07 package upgrades. The Z07 is also now the pace car for IMSA, with the Porsche Cayman being added as a safety car for European endurance. The LMP2 has a Gen 1 and Gen 2 classes. Gen 1 uses the 2019 spec regulations, with the Gibson V8 outputting all of its 600 plus horsepower. Under the LMP2 rules for both IMSA and WEC, they've gradually been restricting that output, with the IMSA 2004 rules limiting it to 525 horsepower. Gen 1 is also set to have pre-warm tyres, which is no longer allowed in either IMSA or WEC. IMSA has overhauled the engine and car failure effects with the following visible consequences. There's slightly different animations for coolant, oil, turbo failures, complete with new effects to distinguish each type of failure. Just like real life, you don't just hear the engine sounds, but you actually hear the reaction of the air. This noise is something that people will have experienced watching races on high-speed circuits. The whistling is the air being controlled and passing over the aerodynamic components. The pit entrance and exits of all tracks will now feature pit exit lights to signal when the pits are open or closed. That will show either green or red. As well as this information, when you roll into the pits, you'll see the traffic light far ahead where the pit exit is. That will show green if you can exit, and there will be a blue flashing light if the cars are coming past the pit exit. As all the cars clear, the flashing light will stop. Prior to this update, we were limited to a track map that only featured a small part of the circuit. Now you can access the full track map in this latest update. A simple update, but something I'm much more likely to use instead of having hidden. We also get new graphics enhancements which are added to what the driver feels currently through the force feedback. The level of detail here is stunning. No longer do flat spots and worn tyres just vibrate through the wheel. The flat spots are now visible through new rendering that allows for visible indication of lesions and missing rubber clearly visible when the car is moving, when the tyres are rotating, or when the car is stopped. This visual graphic enhancement leaves you with no doubt of the damage you're doing to the tyres. And my suggestion is switch any assist off that you have to get the full benefit, to really learn how to brake smoothly and reduce the possibility of flat spots. IMSA has also made huge inroads in tyre thermodynamics. Now, when you start off, the tyres might be cold depending on which series you're in. If the series doesn't have tyre blankets, there's going to be minimum warming of the tyres. I've got two examples here from Road America. On the top is my first lap, below is the third lap that I did. As you can see, I approached a particularly tricky turn down the hill and I brake virtually at the same place. I'm actually even more cautious on braking on the outlap, but didn't brake early enough. That meant the tyres immediately locked up and I went straight on. It's really important to note here that this is where higher traction control can really be your friend. It's possible that some people, when they get back on the sim after this update, will complain about poor slidey behaviour of the cars, but it's purely down to the more accurate cold tyre simulation. What's even more exciting is that this is also applied to the AI. The AI in 1.6 represents the biggest leap within a single build yet. So much has been discussed about the performance of AI racing and how realistic it is. Since the launch of AMS2, we have seen ongoing improvements, and this latest build offers the best AI interactive racing performance yet to both wet and dry conditions. The AI's ability to navigate each other and challenge the player for position, all the while observing typical racing etiquette, has never been better. The logic for AI to prioritise the inside line into the next braking zone while attempting to overtake offers a serious and realistic challenge, while a new AI awareness of the space to keep the circuit corridors wider while AI is under throttle application. The AI will now also cover the inside line when trying to defend from being overtaken. This frequency is subject to AI aggression setting and the AI level. Unmodded default AI drivers are generally more likely to engage in defensive moves in modern series and less so in series from the 60s, 70s and 80s. The AI will now move out of the racing line and slightly lift under a blue flag. This will always happen in practice and qualifying. In races, AI cooperate under blue flags, which will be subject to the driver's AI-specific blue flag personality parameters. This is something that can be modded, but the unmodded default AI drivers are generally more likely to give way to faster cars in the modern series. AI will only live slightly on straights to facilitate overtakes and never in the corners. This used to be the other way around, which caused accidents. So in multi-class races under blue flags, the AI will not move out of the racing line if the speed differential to the overtaking car is higher than 10%. This is in line with the series, as lap cars are still racing for position. During outlaps in practice and qualifying, they will always try and create a buffer between them and the cars ahead before starting a hot lap. This will stop bunching, which often used to happen. The AI will also enter in-lap behaviour soon after completing a hot lap in practice and qualifying, so this will essentially take them off the racing line on a cool-down lap. Previous AI seemed to be impervious to cold or hot tyres, but that is now changing. With the thermodynamics development, this will now impact the AI racing. In classes with high performance slicks, in which tyre warmers are not allowed by the rules, they have added a new AI function that scales the AI performance to match what is viable for the AI cars. Under this new function, they have reduced grip when rolling out of the pits on cold tyres, in practice or after a pit stop, and these will now naturally heat up in turn with the speed. As the race progresses, we will also see drivers and AI tyres drop off at a similar rate, depending on the driving style. Classes which do allow for tyre preconditioning, as well as classes running street or vintage tyres, are not as affected by this AI function, as the impact of running cold tyres and the performance of those tyres are relatively minor. As if AMS2 wasn't already one of the best looking sims out of the box, this update gives an extensively revised lighting properties in all climates and weather states, as well as revised car materials and further enhanced content. You can see here that the car I'm driving, the LMDH BMW, has a completely different cockpit interior with a rough carbon fibre finish opposed to the very slick veneer that you saw before. You can even see the bolts in the corner. As a result of this revision, both tracks and cars should look more natural in isolation, but also much more organically integrated. Previously, there were some scratches on the windscreen. The screens now have fingerprint marks in certain light conditions. Further rain effects update. In the last update, we saw raindrops enhancements on the screen and the side windows. In this update, we get improved spray effects from the other cars and on the windshield. Back in the 1980s and 1990s, certainly before F1 aerodynamics teams knew how to control vortex shedding, racing cars in certain humid conditions had vortices rippling off the car's rear wing. As part of the new update, including the humidity settings, this is now not only visible in-game, but also in the replay mode. You'll now see the vortices coming off certain cars' rear wings. So with improved features such as the aero wash off the rear wings, the dust particles on the off-road cars are even more spectacular now. Not only that, the improved physics really benefit the off-road performance of the cars. They're still equally as challenging, but there's a certain amount of predictability and control that you didn't have before. I think the rallying element of AMS2 is so underrated, and I know with these updates it's absolutely worth a second and third go. The key to a good sim is having to adapt your driving to changing conditions. The rubbered in racing line is normally where the grip is in the drive. Deviate from that line and lose grip. Conversely, the rubbered in racing line becomes more slippery in the rain. This is because the rubber left on the track doesn't drain the water, while the non-rubbered in section drains the water through the tarmac. The standing water found at the apex of these corners also hold their own dangers. Not only will you have to adapt your driving style to these conditions, but the AI is now becoming more balanced. In the wet, you should be able to race more closely with the AI. This whole balance of wet and dry conditions and looking for the fastest line, especially on a drying track, is a huge step forward. Expect close, fast racing with the AI in the dry, but nevertheless more balanced performance in the wet. A good few months ago, Reza shared that they were going to collaborate with several online sim racing services to focus on providing a scheduled multiplayer racing experience. Low Fuel Motorsport, Just Race and Racecraft Online are all third parties that are supporting an AMS2 development program where they hope to schedule races. Low Fuel Motorsport is expected to make an exciting debut offering AMS2 schedule soon after the version 1.6 release. Reza has made substantial improvement in the netcode in the 1.6 cycle, the most significant being the reduction vehicle packet send rates have reduced by 75%, no more mass disconnects, because they've also made huge improvements in this area too. Not specifically covered in this video, but I do have separate videos relating to all the other DLCs but not shown in this content. The Lamborghini Dream Pack Part 1 and the Endurance Track Pack Part 2. These can also be found on my channel. If you've come this far, please like and subscribe to keep in touch. Reza has done an amazing job constantly developing AMS2 over the last 2 years. It's a completely transformative sim. However, the work is never done and there is a huge amount of updates and improvements still to come. One of the things many of us are looking for is a much more stable multiplayer and hopefully better integration of third-party matchmaking racing. And with news of that area a few weeks ago where Low Fuel Motorsport has said that they are testing AMS2, we can potentially see some really good licensed matchmaking racing, which will drive more people to the sim. In my opinion, this is one of the best jump in and race sims to invest in. And the good thing is, Reza is still investing in the future of this sim. With their tie-up with IMSA, we're also going to see more new content. We're also avidly waiting for some older, historic IMSA content. So the good thing is, things are only going to get better. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.